Hello. I'm Sydney, the founder of Vertical Wedge. One of the founders, because it's me and my husband, Andre. It's just me on the episode solo. So every once in a while, I get on here and I just get to share some really interesting personal experiences. And today, I'm super excited because we did a really intense polling Tuesday, where we asked some pretty serious questions like, do you ever feel like giving up? Do you pay yourself? Do you feel like the products you're making and the time you're putting into your business is worth it? Do you feel constant overwhelm? Just things that, kind of hit home for a lot of us solo entrepreneurs, or the solopreneur, as one would say. If you have any questions or want to hang out in the comments, let me know. I have my computer right here. That's why you see me looking down. It's because the computer's down today and not higher up. It's just so I can see the comments and respond, because I think that this is a really interesting conversation to be had. It's one that really I love talking about and teaching on. First of all, the life cycle of a handicraft maker. It just goes in line with the life cycle of a business. And so we kind of broke it down. Today we're going to be talking about, okay, so what is the life cycle, obviously? What stage of business are you in? Do you pay yourself? How you can not struggle with asking yourself if it's really worth it. And when you consider quitting, what are some tips and tricks that I kind of rely on? And then how do we leave you with some actionable steps? So we've got some really fun resources for you that we're going to link in the comments after the show. And then we are going to take some comments from our polling Tuesday. So we have some comments that we grabbed that I thought were really impactful and that we're going to talk about. So without further ado, the life cycle of a business. So it kind of starts off with one, the existence of said business. The survival is step two, success, takeoff, and resource maturity. So you're probably like, what the heck are you even talking about right now? So stage one, existence. Let me break it down for you. It's idea validation. So this is kind of where you create like that very first candle or mug or stand or whatever it is that you make and bring to the world. You had an idea and you do a lot of the research. You go, where does my product fit? And then you start being agile. So it's researching a little bit of market research. You start realizing like what wax that you like and what wax actually works well for the customers in your area that you're actually selling to, and what shapes are cool, what colors. You start thinking about different scents. You start testing essentially the products. You start looking at your packaging. You start just developing and kind of rolling out that product. It's the very infancy of a business. I'd say this is year one. Existence, right? Can you exist? Then you've got survival. So this is customer service, building customer loyalty, profitability, and growth. So this is where a lot of us fight to we get really excited in the existence stage because we love bringing things to existence. We love the idea of like making something and creating something and bringing it to real life, bringing it to the customers, having that value. But then we have to sit down and go, wow, okay, I got to put the hat on that's like the accountant. How the heck do I categorize all my expenses? Okay, now I got to put the marketing hat on because we're running sales and we're doing bundles and we're like marketing. So how do I strategically market? Then you're also running the customer service hat because you want to have like good customer service and good customer loyalty. You're dealing with reviews. You're starting to juggle a lot of different tasks. Now, this is where a majority of our handicraft makers are. And I say handicraft in the essence of like anyone that makes stuff with their hands is going to be a handicraft, market segment is how like the official breakdown of it is. And so you have, years 2 to 4 is like this survival mode. Are you going to be a legitimate business or continue to be a side hustle, or a side job or a side gig, a side passion, side project? And so whatever it is that you decide for your business in these 2 to 4 years is going to be, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. For Vertical Ledge, we are just ending year 4 and going into year 5. So like our big anniversary is coming up. I am super stoked about that. But one of the things that I've had to get really, really serious about, I'd say the last year, is like, what is Vertical Ledge doing? Why do we exist? What is the point of us? And where are we really going and trying to get to? These are things that you're going to want to start asking in the years of 2 to 4. Like we didn't really build out our core pillars, which we'll come back to a little bit later, until the 3rd year in business. And while I had them like idealized, I didn't have them concreted. And so I think that survival mode is really you're really gonna decide whether or not this is going to be like a full-time position where you're going to hire people and you're going to get the account and you're really going to get everything in line, because the years following that are like very growth focused. So you've got stage 1 is existence, right? That's kind of like that first year, that beta year for us. That was 2018 into 2019, really seeing our market fit. Okay, so then you've got survival, stage 2, years 2 to 4. That's kind of like, you really got to niche down. You really got to find like what they call the cash cow of the company, like what products are really bringing in the bulk of your sales. And then you have stage 3, which is success. You know, I think success is an interesting stage to call this because I don't know if I consider it success or not, but it's essentially incentivizing like word of mouth marketing, securing funding for expansion, looking at hiring like a full team of employees and stepping into that like leadership role if you're the founder, right? And figuring out what hat you really like to wear and outsourcing all the rest. That's an interesting step, and I'm going to challenge us. I'm going to kind of simplify it again, right? These are like the big business stages. We're going to simplify it to your specific niche because I think HandiCraft is a little bit different. You're a solopreneur, you're a mom, you're a student, you're somebody who's like, I want to take this to the full time, but I'm still doing it on the side. So I think there's some caveats to this stage. So you got 1, 2, 3. Stage 4 is takeoff, and what our research defined as takeoff is like scaling operations, hiring and growth, resilience, business continuity and contingency planning. So if you're going to sell your business or let it go. And then stage 5, what they said was resource maturity. So this is like maintaining customer service while scaling. So if you wanted to do like global domination is what I call it. How are you going to continue to serve really well while servicing like all the customers? Like you are all of a sudden like the world's largest candle manufacturing company. Like you have just exploded. How are you going to keep that community that you've built over the last few years and scale it? This is like lean marketing for businesses. So really getting into like ads and deep diving into like, so some of the like the benchmarks for this level of a business is like $50,000 in Google ads every month. And I'm like, what the heck? Who spends that much? So many companies spend that much on ads. It's ridiculous. So we're talking about, right, you, the audience, our HandiCraft maker, our handmade artisan, who is probably like, okay, none of that really even relates to me. What the heck are you talking about, Sydney? Don't worry, I'm gonna bring it in. So essentially, stage 1 for you is like not paying yourself. This looks like I'm gonna do this on the side. So I have a hobby and I have this passion and I have this thing, and all of my friends and family are like, you should sell said thing that you have a passion for. Okay, man, I didn't bring any props today. Okay, you are let me use my wallet. You are a leather wallet maker. Okay, you were doing this on the side. You really have a passion for making leather items, and you're like, man, all of my friends and family are like, hey, I want one of those. Can I buy something like that from you? And you're like, ding, business idea. I could do this as a business. And you're just super excited at the opportunity to potentially turn your passion and your love for what you do into something that could also benefit your family and potentially be a full-time thing or a side thing forever, right? There's there's differences in how you operate your business, if it's a full-time side or a full-time. Because I don't think any side hustle is not considered full-time. It's a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice to your relationships. So, okay, you started selling your small handmade item. Okay, so moving forward, now you're like, okay, well, what if I do it in like three different colors? Where am I going to sell this? I'm setting up my website. I'm setting up the e-commerce. I'm setting up certain markets that I'm going to go to. I'm researching where I fit best in the market because my passion of making these things now has become a business project. And I have to think strategically about what it is that I'm doing and wanting to accomplish. I think that's, I think I kind of broke it up. So I put like a step 1B. So you've got the start of your business. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And you start an online website, you start your Etsy page, and let's say you go to a market for the first time, or one or the other. You went to a market for the first time and you didn't have e-commerce, or you did e-commerce and you didn't go to market, or you did both. So there's combination here. I understand that. I also know that most of you are going to markets because that's how you would know about Vertical Ledge. So you started, and now this like caveat step that I threw in there, which was like pre-survival, which is you got a taste of success. You're like, wow, I had a few really good months of sales. I really want to continue down this road. And so you kind of invest in a new setup. You invest in some, you invest in an e-commerce platform. Maybe you look at like, oh, I got my first like legitimate paycheck where I have a profit and I'm not putting that profit back into the company, which are two different things. I have some research for you there that are some data points that I want to bring up. And so then you've got stage 3 survival. So let's break this down for what that means for you. You're going to take it full time. You're like, okay, no longer is this a side thing. I am a stay-at-home mom, and for 5 hours a day while my kid's at school or preschool or with a sitter, I am doing this candle business. I am doing this earring thing. I am doing the thing. So you really start putting in some like blood, sweat, and tears into this. And if this is kind of like where you're at, I really, really want to encourage you, or if you're struggling, like, should I go full time or should I not go full time? You really need to be strategic in 1, your pricing, 2, you're making a profit. You're not just selling and not making anything to be able to pay yourself or to pay your bills or to pay for your supplies and materials. This is where you really can leverage an accountant. There are accountants out there that are scammy, and there are accountants out there that just genuinely want to help. So first, I definitely set up a few meetings with someone local. I highly recommend getting somebody who you can sit down for with coffee and actually talk to face to face. I kind of have a personal rule that I'm not going to work with you if I can't shake your hand. And it's mainly because I have been burned so many times paying for things and not receiving. And just everything can look so professional online, and you really get a sense for the person when you meet them and like you shake them hand in hand. Now that's not an end all be all, because I've also met people online that are really good at what they do, and what they claim they are experts at, they are actual experts at. I really want to do a deep dive into that topic. Like, how do you find a good person to work with, just in general, in any like contract position? Because I think that can be really daunting for a solopreneur, for somebody who doesn't have that business hat on. Okay, so right in that survival mode, you need to understand, okay, can I pay myself? What are my profit margins? What do my books look like? Accountant. Go to an accountant. Just have them do it. Don't make it a friend or family member. Actually hire somebody to do it. It might be like a sting, like, oh, that's a lot of money at first, but with proper books in place, you can make strategic business decisions to move your business forward and then bring in more income. And it goes around and around. Okay, so you take it full time, you pay yourself, you get an accountant. You start looking at omni-channel sales. What this kind of means to me in your position would be like exhibitions. Like you're going to more than just your local farmers markets. Maybe you're actually traveling to different states and going to much larger, bigger shows like West Coast Craft or Renegade in a different state that's bigger than Washington. No, I'm just joking. Or Market for Makers, or you're doing one of a kind. So these are some of the big shows that you have to be really, really well branded and well presented to even either be invited or accept as like an application. So exhibitions. You could think about like wholesale shows. There's a lot of shows that you can do that are specifically for like small boutiques and retailers to come and buy wholesale from you direct. Like they want to see the product, they don't want to just order it online. That's perfect for like building relationships. We're going to be doing I'm going to be going to a wholesale show, not attending or being a vendor. I'm just going to go as like a guest because I want to understand the wholesale marketplace a little bit better and what that means for you guys, our audience. Bring some of those insights back. So I'm excited because there's some in January that I've got lined up. So then, okay, you've got the exhibitions, you've got the wholesale, then you can like start selling direct to retail locations or having your own retail space, especially like if you're a clothing brand or you have a really good relationship with some of these really cool retail spaces where you can rent a small like 10 by 10 space for like a weekend or a month. Like these are great spaces to beta test if your business is ready for that next level of a retail location. And then you also have like custom orders, because I'm sure as a lot of handmade artisans already know, being able to customize things for your clients' needs, especially if it's for like a wedding or a big event or a special holiday, like having that customization can really, again, set your business apart. Not that you should or you have to. That's not what I'm here to tell you. I'm just giving you all the options. So, right, in the survival mode, you're really trying to figure out where you're going to be selling and getting those profit margins and being able to like have a sustainable business for 2 to 4 years. Like, are you sustainable? Are you growing? And then like think about like takeoff for a handicraft market. Business is like going global. Like you are in 20 retail locations across the country, and you're in some in Canada, some in Australia, some in Europe. Like you have big wholesale orders that are going a lot of different places. At this point, you've probably already hired help, right? You've already either taken this on full time by yourself and you have some assistants, or you have full-time employees that are running the show and you're doing all the behind the scenes business deals and things like that. Again, this is just another stage of your business, a different faucet in which you could be moving into, and you need to like keep front of mind when you are thinking about growing. And if this is something you want to do, because this is what year 2 and 4 and then 5 start to look like. It just looks completely different. It's a different beast, especially if you are in a growth curve and a growth trajectory. Okay, so then you also think about like during your takeoff stage, you really have to have a concrete 5-year plan and a 3-year plan and a 2-year plan and a breakdown of what you're going to be doing for the next 18 months in every department of your business. Marketing, research and development, product, your sales, your, I already said marketing. I think about marketing because that's like my big job at Vertical Edge. Like product development, inventory management, stock solutions, warehousing. Oh, also in success, I also think about like, are you packaging all your items, or do you have a warehouse, like a small business solution that's packaging and storing and shipping, and who's dealing with your customer service, and who's dealing with the web development of your website? So like there's all of these things that you now have to start to invest into and plan for. So that's like, I feel like that's during that takeoff stage. And then resource maturity. Again, I think about like, this is like after year 5 and beyond. I'm not there, so I can't speak to that. But because we are planning into those years, I can say that really understanding our core values and where we serve best is super important. So one of the things that we wrestled with for year 5 in total for next year is, are we going to do another spring and fall launch? Are we going to keep releasing new products, or are we going to niche down and hone in on the ones that we currently have now and see how far those can get us? And so it's very interesting to wrestle with those questions when it comes to business growth and development. I wanted to give you a big overview. I know I just spent like 20 minutes talking about like the different phases of business, but I think it's important because when I first started Vertical Ledge, I was really naive and kind of blind to what could be. And I think to a degree that worked in our benefit. But now, year 3, 4, and moving into 5, I've had to, like, that year 3 was the first year that I did a 5-year plan. And I had panic attacks for the first time in like 10 years that were like absolutely debilitating. Because what I realized, in order for me to get to that 5-year goal, there was going to be so much growth and development within not only my own personal, like myself as my career development and my personal growth and my spiritual growth and my just who I am. I was like, crap, I'm going to need to level up. Like, I need to really do the hard work. But also I realized that like we needed employees, and we needed a warehouse space, and we needed a studio, and we needed an ads team, and we needed help in like so many quote unquote departments, which are fine to handle on your own up to 3 years is what I did. And then after that, I crumbled. I like totally fell apart. I was like, wow, I need help. I cannot do this anymore. My health started declining. I felt like I was going insane. So my mental health wasn't there. I have a lot of health problems that are coming up because of all that stress that we had. So just know that when you're moving through these different stages of business, like you aren't going to be in the same business stage forever. It's kind of impossible to stay in one space for a long time, especially if you're pressing the gas pedal in all the different departments and you're really pushing forward. That being said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I have loved just the growth over Vertical Ledge for the last year. Okay, so one of the questions I do want to hit on, because I think it's really important, is do you pay yourself? I'm going to tell you a story because I think it's humbling to share one's own personal story in this question of do you pay yourself. So when we first started Vertical Edge, it wasn't something that I was like, oh yeah, this is going to take like my full-time position. This is like what I'm going to do. It was just like, oh, this is a side project. It's kind of fun. Like, we like product development. Me and Andre are both very entrepreneurial. Let's just do something on the side, because I didn't have enough side projects. At the time, I was a yoga instructor. I was a health coach. I was a nanny. And I always forget about one. Oh, I was doing beauty counter on the side. So there was like all of these different things that I was doing. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. Like somebody asked us if we could sell our stand to them. And that's kind of how Vertical Edge started in the short term. And we put it up on Etsy, and we got quite a few orders that first year, enough to be like, okay, let's, design a few more. And every few months we would release a new design. We started our media on Pinterest instead of like Instagram. So we have a longer standing on Pinterest, and that's kind of what got our business to where it's at. And so I didn't, I wasn't like, oh, let's have this pay me, because it was more like, okay, let's just pay for our materials, let's pay for some ads, aka throwing money away because I didn't set it up right. Shout out to our last episode with Joe from Lakefront Consulting. He was on here last week and shared with us all the different like foundations for setting up ads the right way, which I think is super important before you start putting any money into them, is setting them up the right way. And so I read a book. Which book was it? It was either Scaling Lean or Crossing the Chasm. One of the two that kind of talks about you don't have a business if you don't pay yourself. Like, you are part of the operating expenses. So it was year 3, 2020. Yeah, where we were kind of like, okay, we kind of have to start paying ourselves. But I was like, yeah, but I also feel like we're at a point in the business where we're really tipping the scales. Like, we're turning this into something really exciting. Maybe we can pay half, like we can pay ourselves half of what we think we're worth and call it a day. So we did that for a few months. And then in the beginning of 2021, was it 2022, this year, Andre was like, look, this isn't how you run a business. You need to have a full paycheck from now on. Otherwise, we're not going forward. And I was like, well, you're right. And he's like, you need to value yourself. You need to understand that you are worth a paycheck. You're putting in a lot of work hours, and for what? At the end of the day, for what? And I was like, oh man, this is so true. So we like worked with our accountant to understand where we should pay ourselves and what that looks like. And we set that up the right way. And it's just like been really exciting because again, like this is kind of new for us. Like years 1 to 3, it wasn't something where I was like, oh, this is consistent. We can like pay ourselves. Like this is a real thing, a real business. And ever since I started taking it seriously, there's been some incredible monumentous success and pivots forward. And so let's see, 90% of you from our poll said that you did not pay yourself or you did not pay yourself consistently, which is interesting. So one of the things that I would super recommend that you read is Profit First. It is not an accounting book. It is a entrepreneur's workbook. And the opening chapter had me crying my eyes out. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel just like this guy felt. And he talks about the kind of like the overview of accounting in the essence of like, here's how you can break down 4 categories of your business: profit, owner compensation, taxes, and operating expenses. And he gives you percentages. And it's really, really, really simple. If I can do it, you can do it. He's got tons of resources. Mike, I forgot his last name, but it's called Profit First. We're going to link it in the comments. I definitely recommend everybody read it, especially if you're like really struggling in this area. If you should pay yourself first. And then, so what are the consequences of not paying yourself? I wanted to start here when we do a little bit of deep dive into what it means to pay yourself, because I think labor charges should be a line item on your business P&L statements, profit and loss statements. And you might not have profit and loss statements yet in your business, but at some point you will, especially if you work with an accountant, because you need to understand how to pivot and how to move your business and how to plan for growth and development. And then again, that quote, it's not a real business if you don't pay for yourself. No one works for free. That's like volunteer work. And if you're passionate about creating things in the world and putting them out there, but not properly charging for them, then that is definitely a volunteer. It's a side thing. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily consider it a business. What is the point of a business? To make money, right? And I guess that's a very broad secular term of what I would consider a business, right? For me, it's more like adding value to the world, quality value. Okay, so then another consequences of not paying yourself is you start to lose value in yourself. It does make the hard days even harder. Like if you're already wearing 500 hats, you're juggling your family, you're juggling another job, and on top of it, like you're doing this business, the small business, and you're not paying yourself, it can feel more of a burden than something that's working for you. It feels like it's working against you, and you want your business to work for you just as much as you work for it. And that's why I love Profit First, because he really dives into this topic of making your business work for you and your dreams and your goals and your passions. Your willingness to invest in yourself demonstrates a high level of commitment and confidence in the health of your business. If you're not paying yourself, like, are you really betting on your business? It's an interesting topic for conversation. Do you not know how to pay yourself? So this is like one of the questions a lot of people are like, I don't know how to pay myself. So definitely talk to an accountant. There's a few different ways you can pay yourself as a business owner. Brief overview is like, make sure your profits are good. So like you need to make sure that you're actually selling your items more than they're costing you to make, which can seem impossible right now, especially with the economy and inflation. I again read profit first to make sure that you're doing that the right way. Typically, it's 25% owner pay is what he recommends. So whatever your business makes, whatever the business makes, you should have 25% of that for your pay. And if you're like, whoa, that's way too much, or whoa, that's way too little, you need to know your numbers. I can't tell you what that number looks like because I don't know how much you make. There is going to be a recommendation video on how to actually like pay yourself, like the different ways you can, as a business owner, pay yourself. You can pay yourself as an employee. You can pay yourself on owner draw. You can do a split. You can do a lot of different ways. It really just depends on how your business is set up and how your taxes work for you personally. Knowledge is power, and everything is figure outable on Google. There's so many resources for small business owners that are free that you don't have to pay for. We will be linking all of those at the end as well. Do you struggle to bring in enough to make your handmade items worth your time? Have you stopped and asked yourself, what is this worth to me? And what does this business mean to me? So whenever I start to get a little bit lost in the world, I have to remind myself, why does vertical ledge exist? What are our pillars? And what does this mean again? Because it can be really easy to get lost and caught up, especially with anxiety and worry and doubt. Like you just want to make sure that you are firmly grounded and firmly rooted in those core values and your why. So why does vertical ledge exist? It's to bring beautiful spaces to make more beautiful spaces accessible and easier to set up and have access to. So that's like really dumb. I had a really nice quote for it. Oh, we strive to co-create beautiful spaces that we enjoy being in. So I love going to markets, but I hate going to markets that are really cluttered and like overly stuffed and packed full. And so one of the things that we design, right, is furniture and fixtures that are beautiful, that are easy to set up, that actually take the bulkiness out of markets and allow them to be enjoyable spaces for not only the customer, but for the maker as well. And so we have some core pillars that follow that why statement. We do a lot of education, hence the vertical. We do a lot of empowerment through that education. So we use a lot of our education to help our customers figure out what it is that they need for their business, whether it be displays or help with merchandising or business connections. And then through that, we grow our community. So those are our like three main pillars. And I always go back to those when I'm feeling overwhelmed and asking myself, is this really worth it? Now that question has gotten a lot easier to answer when I know that I pay myself. Because when I'm not paying myself, I'm definitely going to ask, is this worth it? Like anyone would ask if it's worth it if you're not getting paid. And then one of the other questions I ask when this comes up is like, what hats are you wearing that you need to like put down? Which ones are wearing you down? As solo entrepreneurs, there comes a time when the burden is so heavy that you can't bear it all. And that usually means because you're carrying too much and it's time to put something down. Maybe that looks like taking a step back from your business. Maybe that looks like taking a step forward, but with help, with contractors. This is like a time to look at bringing someone in. Many times, like vertical ledge, especially in the last few years, instead of hiring out, we just took a step back because like we didn't have the proper accounting in place. We didn't have the proper goals and structure to figure out like, oh, can we strategically move forward by hiring somebody or contracting somebody, or can we take this on ourselves? So a lot of times it was a step back, but what you'll notice in the next few years is we're going to be taking a step forward with help. We're going to be bringing in a lot of help. This is also where if you aren't paying yourself, you might be stingy about bringing somebody else on to help your business. So you really need to make sure that you are paying yourself, because you don't want that ever to come in between you and like a vendor that you're subcontracting out to help with like marketing and ads. Like their bill comes in and you're like, wow, I pay them more than I pay myself. Well, you really need to wrestle with that question. The other thing is, so like, going back to your why, going back to your core pillars, going back to like, what am I carrying that's maybe too much? What hats do I need to sit down? And then maybe just taking a Sabbath. So last year we implemented the annual Sabbath for 4 weeks, whether that's 2 weeks in the summer and 2 weeks in the winter, or 4 weeks all at once, or 1 week every quarter. We work incredibly hard in our jobs and we love it. And it's like our downfall is that we can do too much work and not rest enough. So we take Sabbath. Most of us are just in our business, and we also need like lives outside of our business. It can't be the only thing that we do. So taking that Sabbath, allowing yourself to really exhale and rest and reset and refresh and come back more effective and efficient when you get back. I challenge you, if you are struggling after trying all these things, right? Like you really wrestled with your why, you're really wrestling with your core pillars, you've put down all the hats that you can, and you've taken a really incredible trip or rest or break, like true rest, where you actually turn your phone off, leave your computer, don't do any work at all for a week, and you're still questioning if your business is still worth it, then that's a pretty good indicator that it's not. And you either need to restructure your company or just lay it down for quite a while. Not give up, just lay it down. I think if Vertical Edge was at a point, like I guess like at this time last year was really hard for us because we were scaling and we were in a really tough place between like, okay, if we can't pay ourselves, we can't move the business forward, but we have all these things that we need to pour money into that are going to help move the business forward. And it was a really struggle point. And so we had to sit back and rely on community members to help us figure out why we were in a pickle. And so it was, we've wrestled with those questions. So how do we leave you with some actionable steps? First of all, find a community that you can rely on. The best thing that we've ever done is seek out other business owners that we can grow with and alongside, and people that we can look up to, people that we can mentor alongside, and people that we can mentor up to our level. It's been incredible to have that. It's like the 30-30-30 rule, where you spend 30% of your time with people that are where you want to be, 30% of the time with your peers, and 30% of the time with people that are where you were, and helping them. I just love that model. It's always worked really well for us. So there's the Small Business Administration. A lot of cities have the SCORE administration. They do events and seminars at local libraries. Me and Andre did a ton when we were in college. One, because we loved free resources, but two, we wanted to meet people and we wanted to talk and we wanted to get to know other business owners. There's also the EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. Now that one, you do have to make $1 million in sales to be able to be a part of that. They have an accelerator program that we might be entering into. You have to do $250,000 plus, but up to $1 million in sales to be able to get to. And they have a lot of spin-offs. So even like small business administration, you should be able to find some local events and go to them. They have like weekly online seminars that are really cool. We listen to a bunch, especially in areas where our hat isn't as strong in that area. We'll listen in. And then building that like a relationship with an accountant that you can trust and lean on is going to be fundamental in your business. Somebody who really understands business accounting, not personal accounting, because those are different and they work and operate in totally different ways than one another. And then real quick, we will end with a few minutes of comments we had in that poll. We asked like, what are you really struggling with right now as a small business owner? And I wanted to read some of those. One of them was like, know what products, like online services to invest in. Whenever we start looking at like products and services that we're going to invest in, we always start with a trial. And I literally put a thing on my calendar, like I put it in immediately when I like purchase the free trial. And I will try it for a month. If I don't use it during that month, then I'm not going to continue on with that. What's great is there is a lot of free services online that you can try before you buy, but it means that you put down some hats and actually try the thing, which I know can be frustrating because we've all been there and we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't actually need to start that trial. Just reach out to them. They will, refund it and you can get it taken care of. So I've never had a company that's like, oh no, we're keeping this money, The other question that I wanted to address is like how to scale. So I thought about like, okay, if you're a small handmade business and you want to scale, you have to ask yourself, to what degree do you want to scale? Do you want employees? Do you want to sell wholesale? Do you want to sell strictly to e-com online, D2C, direct to consumer? Do you want to sell to other businesses? Again, that wholesale model. Are you wanting to do like corporate events and like special niche things? Like you really have to figure out what levers you're going to pull to move your business forward. And sometimes that's just doing the little research and development into what those levers start to look like. How else to scale? Being a little bit more strategic about the events that you're going to. A lot of people are going to like these local farmers markets, and I challenge you to look at bigger shows, bigger handmade shows that are going to attract your more ideal audience, especially if you have a product that's really hefty on the price tag. You're probably not going to find your ideal client or your ideal customer at the farmer's market because they're looking to spend like less than $100 there probably. And if they find something cute, that's great. But like these higher end holiday markets and these higher end shows where people are actually going to be looking for those quality handmade goods is probably key in when you're thinking about like scaling your business. But also think about like the time that you spend at the farmer's market. It's a weekly thing, maybe for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. You're there every single week. You're probably be paying like a fee. While it might not be that much, it's a fee in your time and your energy, and it's like a really solid commitment. Now that might be good to start off in year 1 to like refine your products, but then year 2, 3, 4, 5 and beyond, you want to be strategic with your time and energy because it's the most valuable thing that you have, and it's definitely something that you don't want to take for granted. So that's when I challenge the makers to start looking at like, okay, what's the next big show you're going to go to, and what does that actually look like, and how is that moving your business forward? So one of the reasons why we don't go to shows as like Vertical Edge, because our ideal customer isn't there. They're going to be in different spaces. And so it's just interesting, kind of playing around with that, like figuring out truly where your ideal customer is, meeting them where they're at, and niching down. If your product is super, super niche and super, super high end, then you want to get an ads person in there to help you at least build the foundations. I think that's really invaluable to start that process. Well, that's kind of like all we have for you today. We will have a blog follow-up with some key takeaways, as well as all of the links will be posted in the comments. We've got Profit First is a really good one. I really want to do like a book club on that because I think it's an incredible book that's really powerful. And can really put your mind at ease that you're not alone in the struggle of paying yourself, because this is something that we all struggle with as entrepreneurs, as small business owners, and especially in the handmade space. If you are really good at this stuff and you have a passion for like helping the community, drop your comment below, and I would love to have you on for an interview, and so we can kind of talk and wrestle with those things. It doesn't have to be YouTube, it could be Instagram or Facebook. Do they have interviews on there? I'm not sure. We're not on Facebook very often, or TikTok. So definitely hit us up if you have any comments. Until next week, guys, next week we have 2 guests. we have a market organizer who's going to dive deep more into the life cycle of a maker and what those tangible next steps are and how you grow and scale your business. And then we have a videographer on who's going to be talking to us about marketing and reels. And I'm just really excited because those two guests are going to be awesome. They are back to back. It's either next week or the following. Pretty sure. I'm not sure. Actually, my brain is not here. Today, it's one of those days. It's one of those days. Okay, you guys. Well, until next time.